Hello, you beautiful examples of the beautiful universe seeking to express itself and collectively experience all things through all of us beautiful nodes of the uniquely cosmic spark of consciousness that pervades all realities. We're going to get right to D&D, but first I just wanted to thank all of you sweet angels of unconditional benevolence who kicked a few bucks my way to help me get out of the red. At the time of reading this, you have donated the exact dollar amount that I needed to be back in black, and so to thank you, I'm going to play you a screaming guitar solo over a painstakingly handcrafted backing track of Back in Black that I looped together real quick from scratch to avoid copyright infringement. Loud boy warning, and... So there you have it. Thank you again. You literally saved my supple, fleshy little pooper just in time for a global pandemic to wipe it the fuck out. Let's make the most of this apocalypse and play some fucking D&D this Friday, my darlings. See you at 2 p.m. Pacific here on the channel, Friday, March 13th, for the 50K D&D Celebration Extravaganza. Now then, on with the show. What is your funniest critical failure moment in Dungeons & Dragons? Part 2. While I was in the Navy, we had a group that would get together to play while we were underway. Our campaigns would get pretty raucous and raunchy, and each of us had fun trying out new things. At one point, we were reaching the end of a campaign with relatively high-level characters that had mostly been created at the beginning of this particular game. I had a level 12 human wild mage named Callanand, but whom I had nicknamed Bob the Great and Magnificent. I played him mostly tongue-in-cheek, but he was known to throw a fireball or two without much regard for party members who might be in the splash zone. Imagine a mage who mostly depended on a wand of wonder that had a penchant for somehow saving the party's asses by shooting a couple of gold coins at a nasty. Anyway, we found ourselves against 3 evil dragons, 2 young and a very ancient red that was intent on toasting us for a snack. Normally, we would have been able to eventually deal with the threat, but we'd been adventuring without rest and hadn't recharged spells. Needless to say, the decision to make a hasty retreat was in discussion, but looking rather difficult. I made a decision and pulled the DM aside. I wanted to destroy one of my more powerful items while pouring in as much wild magic as I could. I was literally going to go down into the middle of the dragons, then commit suicide in a most excellent manner. He okayed the move, but told me I had to roll for success. Cool beans. I was going to be the hero of the campaign, and future generations would sing my praises. I rolled a goddamned 1. Motherfucker. DM let the spell work, and it killed the dragons, but it was also much more powerful than expected, equaling a massive nuke, killing the party, and destroying half the kingdom we were hired to protect. Our next campaign was set near the destroyed kingdom, and it was revealed that any character, NPC or PC, who had the name of Bob was to be stoned to death on sight. How the NPCs knew it was a Bob is not known. I was also not allowed to play a mage by the other players. Instead, I played an annoying halfling thief who enjoyed taking things from the other party members when they weren't looking. They were fine with that, since halflings can't really blow things up without magic items, and the DM certainly wasn't going to allow me any. Mine is more of a critical success in-game, but a critical failure in the ongoing metagame. So, in junior high, one of the members of our D&D group was inexplicably a big, dumb football player. He was a nice guy and liked to hang out with we geeks, so that was cool. He played a barbarian. Anyways, one session we were settling down to camp, and he was trying to get the fire going when we were set upon by goblins. Many goblins. Possibly a whole tribe of goblins. Literally hundreds of goblins, which, as any veteran player knows, is the only real way to make goblins a threat. You take damage from attrition, some attacks will hit you no matter how good you are, you will eventually run out of spells and potions and arrows, so needless to say, facing so many enemies, we needed all hands at arms. Unfortunately, to our would-be very helpful at this moment barbarian, they were only goblins, and I'm
just gonna finish this fire, then I'll help. We need a campfire, guys.
The battle was going not at all well, so the DM decided he would roll something in secret, did so, got 2 natural 20s, kind of sighed and rolled his eyes, face-palming, then said,
Suddenly there is a huge flash, a terribly loud roar, and a blistering heat. A few seconds later, when your vision returns, you are all scattered on the ground. Your camp and equipment is scattered around, and there are dead goblins everywhere. Everybody take 3d6 damage.
Our intrepid barbarian managed to fluke lighting the campfire on top of a natural gas main, causing a huge explosion. The goblins, being rather less robust than most player characters, didn't survive it. The mage almost didn't either. That's the critical success. The ongoing metacritical failure was that it took several weeks of play sessions for our barbarian to not respond to the threat of a pitched battle with,
I build a campfire.
As my credential says, I have bad dice jujus. Very bad dice jujus. Huh, should have subscribed. This particular instance has gone down in notoriety at my gaming table, and it's usually one of our first stories to get retold, over and over and over. So there we were, a small band of 3 adventurers, a halfling rogue, a human wizard, scion, and a shard-mined warlord. We were exploring a dwarven fortress that had been mysteriously abandoned and taken over by orcs. Inside one of the towers of the fortress, my wizard noticed a trapdoor in the ceiling and pointed it out to the other party members. The halfling rogue stood on the shard-mind's shoulders to open it and then climbed up into the attic. I teleported up after him. The shard-mind had already used his teleport and decided to stay on the floor below. The attic room was tiny, only 20 by 20 feet. It seemed empty, but then 5 different ghosts appeared out of nowhere to surprise attack the rogue and me. The rogue was dropped to half hit points and was weakened by the attacks. I somehow managed to win initiative on the next round. I looked at the rogue. I want to try and cast Fireball in the middle of the room, I said, but not without your say-so. The rogue laughed. My reflex is high enough you'd have to crit to hit me, he said. I was wearing a fire-resistant cloak as well. My wizard could take a hit, right? I rolled my attacks for the ghosts. 1, 1, 2, 1, 2. The fuck? I said in frustration as I rolled to hit myself. 20. Fuck! I rolled to hit the rogue. 20. Fuck! The rogue went up in flames, screaming as his character's hit points dropped to 0. The ghosts, completely unaffected, moved in. My wizard grabbed the rogue's body and jumped back out of the tower, and we fled. He failed his 3 death saving throws, and the game got diverted while the warlord and I lugged the tiny burned corpse back to the nearest town. We lost almost all of our gold paying a cleric to resurrect him. The final insult came when the rogue's player got me this shirt for Christmas that year. The campaign that I'm part of at the moment, which is on hold while our group tries out 7th C 2nd edition for a change, is a hoot. My character is a fighter that's human, or at least appears to be human. You see, he claims to be a brass dragon in human form that's forgotten how to change back to dragon form, or he just might be insane. I've left it with the DMs to decide which. Playing into this, during character creation, I rolled 118, which of course went into strength. At level 4, I dumped both ability score increases into strength, making it 20. Shortly after, we got the PCs into a rowboat and row out to a ship in the middle of a lake. I rolled a bit too high on my athletics check and wound up punching a hole in the side of the ship, which made the crew none too happy with us. However, that's not a crit fail moment. My very best, or should it be worst, crit fail moment came shortly before the rowboat incident when we were level 3. Deep in a dungeon somewhere, we had just jumped over a spike pit trap, rounded a corner, and almost ran face first into a gelatinous cube that was the width and height of the corridor. The cube decided that we were very tasty looking, so it went after my wife, halfling cleric, and my daughter, half-elf ranger, and proceeded to nom on them. I managed to evade its initial attack. I drew my 2 swords. My guy specialized in 2-weapon fighting, including the dual-wield feat, calling that I would strike with the flats so as to cause bludgeoning damage. My attack bonuses alone were enough to hit. Can you guess where this is heading? Critically. Failed. Both attacks. Wait, action surge. Critically failed. So badly that the combat DM rolled behind the screen and determined that I swung so hard and missed so badly that I lost my grip on both weapons. They clattered down the hall behind me. Anyone care to guess who the next meal for the cube was? Anyone? There was much numbing by the cube of the party after that. We managed to get free and do enough damage that it started to retreat. Our party's artificer used Thunderwave to finish it off, which nicely smeared it down about 50 feet of corridor. A fitting end, methinks. I once played a clever monster hunting rogue. Clever, but greedy to a fault. He'd acquired skullduggerous information about a blue dragon seen ranging out of nearby mountains to gorge on fat cattle in the valley below. Reports of the beast's size promised a huge windfall to the hunter savvy enough to get the job done. My rogue invested heavy coin in sage research as to the nature of blue dragons. He hired a retinue of mercenaries, scholars, and porters to carry the treasure home. Not only whatever loot a dragon might hoard, but whatever value might be carved from the dead creature's hide. He crafted a meticulous plan to poison a herd of cattle the dragon would be expected to eat, before returning, weakened, to encounter a small army lying in wait at the mouth of his lair. Bludgeoners, pikemen, a small warren of spike traps through which a cunning thief might escape if pressed, and the smug mastermind standing out ahead, glorious in bravado, a spark-arresting chain of mithril in hand, just in case. We'll never know if that plan might have worked as intended. The dragon that appeared wasn't a blue, but a large, unhappy red, ill-tempered and nauseous from a belly full of poisoned cattle. The big red spotted this cocky thief on his porch, and promptly bludgeoned the intruder with an acrid, vomitous stream of cow carcass chunks, and then flame blasted the entire mountainside for good measure. There were no survivors. This isn't my moment, but a friend's. So this was in AD&D. He started off as a level 1 wizard, and he was to meet his new comrades in a tavern. Now, fun fact about advanced D&D, wizards basically have no hit points at low level. Keep this in mind at what happens next. So the wizard meets the group and quickly falls out with the fighter, generally because my friend was talking down to him like a jerk. So the fighter had enough and decided to hit him over the head with a bottle to shut him up. So remember how wizards at level 1 have, no HP? Well, the fighter got a critical hit, immediately knocking the wizard out and forcing him to negative HP. The GM decided to let him roll a system shock check to try to survive, because the wizard should be dead. This was just an act of generosity from the GM. So he rolled his D100 and got a critical fail. The wizard died on the spot. The guards came after the now murderer player characters, chasing them out of the town and onto the adventure. And we still joke to this day how his character died 5 minutes into the start of a new campaign, which might well be some sort of record. Hello, you delicious little toffee-coated haystacks of cosmic sweet and salty bliss. Thank you for attuning your infinite conscious mind to this channel. If you're new here, welcome. May your deep YouTube hole end soon so you can get back to whichever point in the journey to self-actualization you are valiantly trudging your way through. But also, please sub for Nat 20s. Quick reminder, D&D game, Friday, March 13th, 2 p.m. PST, other times elsewhere, Google exists. Hope to see you there. Thanks again for the gargantuan outpouring of love and support over the past week. I love you all so much, and I can't wait to see you again next time.